Welcome to Tech Startup Stories, hosted by Natalie Binns. This is the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the B2B startup world.
Hi, I'm Natalie Binns, and I'm the host of Tech Startup Stories. This podcast is really designed to share the unique and challenging journeys of all the people that are building small startups to scale-ups in the tech space. My background? Initially, I was in sales, and then I moved into marketing, and I've been lucky enough to work with some amazing tech companies. But my passion is really startups. And that led me back to helping tech startups set up their marketing and go-to-market functions where the budgets are tight and the resources are few and far between. So let's get into this week's podcast. Hi, everyone. Today I'm speaking with Dr Ali Raza from byteSpark.ai. Welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you very much, Natalie. Nice to meet you.
Great to meet you. And I've heard a lot about you. So I'd love to hear more from your background and your journey and to, what kind of got you into being a founder and an entrepreneur.
Okay, so I'll try to keep it as quick as or as brief as I can. I worked in this region in the telecoms and cybersecurity space. And one of the things that I realized as I was hiring, in my career while in this region was I wasn't able to find the right talent. And instead of complaining about universities, I decided actually, why don't I go in to the world of academia and see if I can make a change? So I pivoted my career to academia back in 2013 and was a professor at a university here in Dubai for 10 years. And it was an amazing experience working with a great university, great students, great faculty. But then what I realized 10 years on is that the students that are graduating are not getting jobs. And I was wondering that, am I maybe just a bad professor? So I decided to investigate, go out there, talk to people, hiring managers that I, worked with in the past, talk to people in recruitment. And over a period of time, I began to realize that the world of recruitment is broken, right? The way recruitment is done it is just going to be impossible for people to be able to be identified based on their true merit. And that's when I realized that, maybe some of the AI capabilities that I have done R&D on over the last 10 years could be brought into this recruitment space and maybe help. And that is when I decided to actually retire from academia after 10 years in 2023. And byteSpark.ai was born as a company.
Wow, that's a journey. And not many people take that leap to go from academia into corporate world. Often it's the other way around, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think my story is a bit strange because I went from the corporate world into academia, and I was only planning to be in academia for maybe 5 years, but then I ended up being there for 10 years because I was enjoying it, and then decided, okay, now I need to solve the problem for the future generation, not by being in the university, but now getting out of the university and looking at it from a different perspective.
And so you're very much focused on the individual seeking employment. So can you explain a little bit more about how you're changing the way that people are recruiting? What exactly are you guys doing?
Okay, so the problem that we actually identified is when people advertise roles, right? In this region, you get thousands of CVs coming in, right? And it is beyond any human capacity to be able to actually go through those CVs, right? It's beyond human capacity. You would have people that have been in the world of recruitment for many years. They'd be able to skim through CVs very quickly. And I was actually terrified when I heard that they'll pick up a CV and make a decision within 5 seconds. I was like, how can you identify the true merits of a person in 5 seconds, right? Some CVs I've seen are 14 pages long. Academic CVs are 40 pages long. And when I used to hire, I had to go through those 40 pages. So we realized that actually this is not going to be easy, right? To really identify people with that true merit. So the system that we built is one that allows us to be able to go through the CV of every candidate contextually, not using keywords, be able to identify the true merits that align with that role, and be able to then score and rank that candidate with a high level of precision and accuracy based on that role. Now, this is not something that was just created out of thin air, right? My background as a professor was when I moved into the world of academia, I thought teaching is going to be a walk in the park, right? So yes, turning up in front of the lecture, in front of the board and talking to the students, it's all easy, very great, because you have that knowledge, you have that experience. But the difficult part is when the students start to send in their assignment reports, right? You have a report that is 70 pages long, you have a cohort of 60 students, and now you have to go through this. So building these assessment capabilities and the assistance using AI was a journey that had started back in 2013, 2014, right? So what really helped us was the ability to make assessments based on the data and not doing that using keywords, because imagine I can't assess my students based on whether they have the right keywords or not, right? It is based on the context in which they've written those reports. And that's what we realized is something that we can do in the world of recruitment.
So, with that, I know there's a huge amount of talk around AI tools and problems with people applying where these HR systems are basically reviewing CVs using AI tech and then cutting people out, so people are having to rewrite their CVs in an AI way to kind of bypass that. How are you making sure that it's still giving the honest opinion and making sure that there's a right match happening, and you're not seeing things like a drop in diversity and inclusion, people pretending they've got those skills, to bypass things? How are you making sure that it's still truly accurate?
Okay, so I think the starting point really is that the CV is the source of the ground truth. Now, if people have harnessed the power of AI to be able to beat the system, to cheat the system, that's something that we would not be able to identify at that early stage, right, of the ATS, right, when the CV comes in. The problem that systems have today is they look at keywords. So if I have a job description, I would identify what are the keywords I'm looking for. The ATS would then go and pick out all the words from that CV and look for those keywords and try to match to a certain extent using AI, but it would not be very accurate. So the way we differentiate with the tools that we built is we don't actually pick out keywords. So we're not looking at a keyword histogram, like how many times has the person mentioned project management or how many times has the person mentioned this. We look at the career path of the person. We're able to identify which companies that they worked for, which certifications they've done, which college or university degrees they've achieved. And we are able to identify the path of that person and see whether this person actually is a good fit for this role. So even if they, put in all the keywords that they can find in the job description, because at the end of the day, an AI tool like ChatGPT will take the job description and say, you should add all these things to your CV, right? You can add all those things to your CV, but then do you have a historical career path that actually matches that? That is the power of AI today. We can do that. So we can go beyond. Now, obviously, there are people that are going to think about that and they're going to maybe fabricate information. So for that, we then have to look at other tools and mechanisms that come further down the recruitment pipeline to say, right, how do we evaluate and make sure that this person, based on what they have in their CV, is saying, is accurate. So for that, again, we need more powerful tools, and we put those tools in the hand of the recruitment official. So we have, for example, a platform called Eric, which is the AI Resume Insight Companion. And Eric can actually, before you start an interview, tell you what it sees as discrepancies and even tell you how to approach them with the candidate.
Right, right. So you were in the corporate world, you went into academia, you then had this passion, this idea that you wanted to solve. I can hear in the background you've got a family. How did you kind of balance taking that leap of going from, a perfectly stable paid role into, kind of going out there on your own and to kind of build this organization? Did you have some backers? Did you initially start with some funding? What was your approach?
Well, actually, it was one of the big questions that my university was asking is, why are you leaving? Because as a tenured faculty, you have that job for life, right? So it's until the time you retire or, you knock off dead. So everyone was shocked. They were wondering, why am I leaving? Have I maybe found something else? The reality is that I have tried working on a lot of different innovative startups. This was one that I felt really passionate about and one that I felt will require all my time. So I didn't want to be in a position where I'm not giving the time and attention to my students, because the role that I was in is one that is of great responsibility. You cannot be a professor and be half baked or give it half your time. You have to give it your full time. And if you're going to solve a really challenging problem that is going to impact the future generations and how people based on true merit are going to be identified, it's again something that you really have to give a lot of that focus and attention to. So I decided to put together my savings, my funds, plan out for 2 to 3 years, and say every business requires 2 to 3 years to reach that point of maturity where it can begin to scale and it can become profitable or at least start to break even. So put those numbers out, looked at it and said, okay, yes, I do have enough to be able to bootstrap this and take this to that level. So far, we've not needed any investment, and the scale that we have achieved so far, luckily, has been without any investment.
Great, amazing. And you've mentioned the word we. How many are on the team at the moment?
So we have a total team of 15 people, and
Oh, wow.
one of them actually is my wife. She's our chief data and AI officer, and she helps a lot with a lot of the algorithms that we use to identify talent as well. So critical part. And then we have development teams. We have people that are helping us in sales and marketing. So it's quite a good team that we've put together.
And is everybody based in Dubai?
No, all over the world. So we have some in the UK, we have some in India, some in Pakistan, some in Dubai.
Amazing. And when you're hiring those people, are you using your own tools?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's one thing we never have to worry about, is we don't have to worry about posting a job online and having the AI power actually help us identify the top talent in a very short space of time. So we're confident with that.
Amazing, amazing. So with the team that you've got, when you sort of set about building the technology, what was your kind of approach to that? What was your planning process?
Well, it was, first of all, identifying the key constraints that people have. What we saw was that we have to build a prototype to be able to validate this as a proof of concept to see that it's going to really have the impact. Make sure that we have people and we have a community that we can actually take this prototype to, and they would actually spend time evaluating and making sure that we get valuable feedback on which we could make improvements. Once we established that, then we started to look at, okay, what are the sort of basic problems that have been identified, and start to solve those problems within this platform or within this prototype, and take it at a very gradual level. So we did not sort of rush in, build an app and say, all right, this app can do everything, or this is what we've envisaged the app can do. We tried to make sure that, because we don't know anything about recruitment, apart from being a hiring manager, I don't know anything about recruitment. I don't know the world they live in. I've never seen the challenges they face. So in this journey, we've gone through talking to almost 200 people in the world of recruitment, right? So that was something that we started off with early, is making sure that we have the different personas of end customers that are going to use this, and make sure that they will be able to adopt this technology, have that, and then move forward with that.
And with that, I'm guessing you also had to kind of factor in different times when, there's huge amounts of jobs that companies are hiring for across the whole business with vast numbers of candidates. Because right now, it is very much a candidate market. But we've known in the past, especially in the tech space, and I'm sure that's not the only industry you're serving, there will come a time where it will, flip back to recruiting and hiring managers struggling to find the candidates. What do you think the impact's going to be with your technology in that scenario?
Okay, so what we've seen, and this is something that we learned when we came into the world of recruitment, is that there are two demographics. There are active candidates and there are passive candidates. So the active candidates are the ones that are going to be applying for jobs, right? Who are going to be looking out for these job adverts coming in, or will be checking their emails actively when LinkedIn suggests a new role that has come in. And then you have the passive candidates who are so busy in their roles, or they're busy with their lives, they don't have time to look for other jobs, or cannot even maybe comprehend, a job change, because they might be too scared to make that change. So when this shift does eventually come in, I think we're going to go into the world of maybe passive candidate chase. So we'll be going after people who are maybe stable in their roles or don't have enough time to look for roles, and try to reach out to them. So that outreach capability is something that we're already seeing is a demand that comes on to us. And for that, we have a capability called the Talent Hunt module in our product, which actually allows you to be able to identify people based on their digital footprint who are relevant to your role, right? Reach out to them, invite them to apply, but also show them how well they fit currently based on the little data that you have, and then invite them to maybe apply with their CV more formally and with their consent. So this is something that we have already anticipated will happen, and we already have capabilities that will address this in the future.
Great, great. And so with the hiring of your own team, obviously you started with a product, you were doing a ton of research. What were the kind of orders of what roles you needed to fill?
Okay, so when I started off, I was actually writing all the code myself.
Oh,
The first six, well, I've been teaching for almost 10 years, so I knew how to write code. And obviously, coming from the technology background I had, I knew how to build systems, build applications. So I think the first maybe 8 or 9 months, I was able to build the prototype, the concept, everything on my own. And then as I slowly started to say, right, I need more focus on the UI UX design, then I brought in a person from a strong front end background who would look at the UI UX, give that an uplift. Then the back end automation capabilities, who are the people that can come in and help me with the DevOps pipeline, the CI/CD pipelines, hire somebody, hand that over to them, and then slowly start to move into looking at the roadmap, the features, the integration with other tools and third-party capabilities. The one area that I think remained at the core and still today is at the core is the AI models that I have built. I'm still looking in the future to bring people on who are going to basically take that and grow that, move that forward. So as a CEO and as a founder, I still also am one of the developers, and I end up becoming a bottleneck for my team. So right now, as we're on this discussion, they're waiting for me to finish because they want to talk about an API to my part that isn't working.
and that's the challenge, isn't it? As you start to build a team, knowing when to kind of hand off and kind of formally move into that CEO position. When do you think you'll step back from being a full-time developer?
I think it's difficult to answer that question. I don't think that ever really goes away because when you have a passion to innovate, I sometimes see that I don't have enough time to talk to my development team and convince them about an idea. So it might take me 2 or 3 meetings to convince them, but it might take me 30 minutes of code to build the capability and just show it to them and say, hey guys, this is something that we can do next. So I think having that edge, having that advantage, staying close to the code is something that is always going to help. And when I'm bored or if I'm watching a cricket match, it's the best thing to do is just write some code. So I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
Multitasking whilst watching the cricket. Brilliant. And in terms of your go-to-market approach, are you actively selling and marketing the products today?
Yes, we are. So our go-to-market approach has been to offer trials to customers. So bring them in, give them a demo of the capability, give them a trial. The key idea is that this is revolutionary technology. It's going to revolutionize the way recruitment is done. And companies are not absolutely sure how they're going to adopt this technology. How are they going to change their recruitment processes internally? So what we do is we show them the capability, we give them a free trial, and we say to them that, look, if you believe this is going to bring in the value, is going to drive the efficiencies that we are promising, and the return on investment, then we can start talking commercials. So this has been our go-to-market strategy right from the start. We haven't changed that. And the number of trials that we are offering have been growing, and the conversions then to actual commercial contracts have also been growing. So we don't have to be pushy, but at the same time, we are getting people within their comfort zone, even maybe after 2 months or 3 months after the trial, coming back and saying, all right, you know what, we've tried everything else, we want to go ahead.
And are you replacing existing technologies, or does this sit alongside their kind of current tech stack?
Okay, so when we started out, we were looking at building something that is new and something that will be. So we didn't think about that. I'll be very honest, right? In fact, I don't even remember sitting down and looking at what our competitors are doing. I went straight to the end customer and said, what are the challenges you're facing today? And in that, in all honesty, we forgot to look at what our competitors are doing or even think about the fact that they exist. We now are facing those challenges. Customers are saying that, listen, your product is so good, I wish I could rip out this existing provider, throw them out, and replace them with yours. But we've signed a 3-year contract with them, we've signed a 4-year contract with them. We cannot just rip them out. And secondly, if I was to rip them out now, I might lose my job because I'm the one that brought them in, and we spent so many, hundreds of thousands with them. So for that, what we've done is we've said, okay, if you guys want to take the advantage of the accurate and high precision assessment that we do, we can build APIs. So you could use our intelligence layer. And for that, we have something called byteSpark Aura, which actually allows the integration to happen with those existing legacy systems. But we faced a bit of a challenge on that, because when our customers then have gone to these companies and said, listen, we have this partner that we're working with, they have an amazing capability, we want to integrate. Those vendors for the legacy systems are looking at it and saying, no, we're not going to integrate with them. Why? Well, we're building the same capability. If we integrate with them, then we will not be able to upsell to you later on. So they've flat out refused in some cases. And we've seen this now with 3 or 4 big players.
Wow, amazing. So with the trial that you're offering, and you kind of mentioned commercials, what's been your pricing strategy? What's been your approach on this? How did you come up with how you're going to sell the product to companies?
I think that has been the biggest pain point for us right from the very start. When we started working on this technology, it was difficult for us to understand what our cost base is going to be, right? But eventually we began to sort of give some shape to that and understand, okay, this is how we're going to be able to deliver with consistency, with the same level of accuracy and precision. Now we started to talk to our customers and say, right, okay, if you post a job out there, you get 2,000 CVs coming in. That means that our GPUs or our inference models are going to run 2,000 times for this one role. The cost to us is this much, and we want a bit of a margin on top, and this is the cost that the price will give you. And they were looking at those prices and saying, no, this is impossible, right? There's no way we can spend that kind of money. So at the very early stage, what we realized is that with the power of AI, we can definitely change the game, but not the spend power of the customers, right? They're accustomed to a certain way of spending. They have a certain way of budgeting in the world of recruitment. And the other thing also is hiring and recruitment, from what I've seen, is not mission critical, because if you can't get the person in maybe in the next week and they can come 3 or 4 weeks down the line, it's still okay. That's the way I see it, right? Everyone is desperate when they give you the role, but when it comes to getting on a call to interview the person or then send out the offer or the contract, everything slows down. So what we realized is the pricing has to be something that everybody is used to. It cannot be an entry barrier for the companies, because first of all, we're asking them to transform the way they do recruitment and use this new technology. The pricing cannot be a barrier. It has to be something they understand. So we looked at the pricing the pricing offers that are there from different recruitment platforms. Nobody shares their pricing. So we have no idea how companies are spending, right? And what is their spending appetite going to be for recruitment? So for us, what we try to do is focus on optimizing our cost, reducing our cost. And that has been our focus, maybe I would say, for the last 18 months. 3 or 4 weeks ago, we actually made some changes to our code. I would say probably 18 to 20 lines of code. And that drastically reduced our cost base by almost 300 times, not 300%, but 300 times. And that means that now we can actually offer pricing to customers that will make it affordable, remove that entry to barrier, give them those free trials. So pricing wise, I have to be honest with you, I don't think we have the answer right now, 100%. We're exploring it. We're still talking to customers and trying to see what fits their budget. In some cases, we have customers who have come in and said, you know what, with this power of AI, it's going to give a life back to my recruitment team. I'm happy to invest. Some on the other side of the spectrum say, right, with this power of AI, how many people can I get rid of? And those are the conversations we try to stay away from, because really we're trying to build AI that can make life easy for those people in the world of recruitment, not get rid of them.
Right. And in terms of the business itself, You're based in Dubai. You've got people all over the world. What's your main kind of market focus in terms of who you're going after?
So I would say our main market focus right now is the GCC. We have tried looking at other markets. We've looked at Europe. One of the weird things that we found is that hiring in Europe is very different and it's very difficult, right? So we have actually worked with some clients on the trials where we've posted roles out on LinkedIn. For that same role posted in the GCC, we would have received somewhere in the region of 1,800 to 2,500 CVs or applicants applying. For the same role, when we posted it on LinkedIn and on Indeed, in Europe, 3 CVs after 10 days. You don't need AI for that. Everyone has enough bandwidth to go through 3 CVs. So when we look at the markets there, we realize that actually they don't have the same pain points as the markets over here. If a job description in Europe says only apply if you hold a valid UK citizenship, people will not apply if they don't have a valid UK citizenship. But in other parts of the world, I don't even think they read the job description. They just click apply. The minute they see the title, they'll just click apply. So that's where I see the market here is probably a bit more prime for this capability than in other parts of the world. But we're still exploring and trying to see where else we can take this.
And are you hitting on all industries?
Yeah, so we've successfully worked with oil and gas, with automotive, with real estate, with aerospace, tech. Obviously, we come from a tech background. Retail, e-commerce retail. That's another one that we've recently worked on. Architecture, building. That's another one. So far, what we've seen is the capability that we've brought to the market is something that is industry agnostic and can help across all verticals.
Right. So what have been the biggest challenges that you've faced on the journey so far?
I think the biggest challenge would be the mindset of people, right? So there are some people that are so happy when they see this tech and they say, oh, thank God somebody's thought about us in the world of recruitment. Now we're going to see tech in our world, in our space, right? So you have that positive vibe coming from people. And then on the other hand, you have a very negative sentiment where people say, oh, we don't need this AI tech. And I'm like, why? They say, well, your tech is really focused on people that are applying. And if somebody's applying, then I don't want them because they're already losers. So people applying for jobs online are losers. And that is something that I really felt is one other extreme, right? So you're already making a judgment. So I've had these conversations and honestly, it's been mud on their face because I've shown them the capabilities of the platform. I can talk to you about some examples later on. But this is the mindset they have, is that I want to go and find that person that is happy in their job and doesn't need to apply for a role. And that person is already doing great. That is the guy I want for my client, right? And I think to myself, how do you even know that person's happy? They're not going to put it on their LinkedIn profile. They're not going to put it on their CV. How are you going to know that they're happy, right? So the challenges really have been around mindset, and we're facing them every day.
What have been the surprisingly positive things that you've enjoyed on the journey so far?
I think the thing that we've loved the best is the ability to give feedback to everyone that applies. That is something that I believed in right from the very start, even as a university professor. And when we built this capability and I was explaining it to my team, I tried to give them a very simple sort of analogy. In a semester, if my students are going to do 5 labs with me that are all based or building on the previous labs, when they've completed lab 1 and lab 2 is due in 2 weeks' time, if I don't give them timely feedback on how they've done on lab 1, they cannot make the improvements needed to then be successful in lab 2 and then subsequently the other labs. So feedback is something that is very important. Now, when I have looked at roles that have come into my inbox, I look at some of those jobs and I say, oh my God, it's like this job description has been made looking at my CV. Whoever wrote this JD has looked at my CV and written this job. I'm applying. And you never hear back. You can sit down for 2 or 3 weeks, even 3 months. You will never hear back. So what I realized is for the younger generation, it creates a lot of anxiety. If we can build the capability that is able to evaluate them and assess them with a level of accuracy and precision and give them that feedback, let them know whether they're in the running or not. And if they're not in the running, why? What are the gaps we found? What are the improvements they could potentially think about for their career? And that is something that has been done organically. People are absolutely loving it. We're getting feedback from the candidates. And for the companies, they're seeing that as a great improvement to their brand value, because now they can manage those high volume of CVs coming in, but they can also keep that engagement with the candidates by providing this feedback. So I think that's been one of the great stories so far.
I think that's one of the most frustrating things that I've heard in the industry where, you really are the perfect person for that role in your own mind and perhaps on paper, but to not understand why you haven't even been selected to be spoken to, I think that can be frustrating. So that's good to hear. So let's talk about the Middle East, particularly this boom in startups in the tech space. I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago, where we were talking about UK being a hub, and London, obviously, there's plenty of other places outside of London, but London having a real boom in fintech and lots of different types of tech startups. What are you experiencing in the Middle East? Where are the hubs in the Middle East? What's the energy like? What's the appetite for growing businesses out there?
Well, in my journey starting in 2023, what I saw was the entry barrier was almost not there, right? So once I come up with an idea, there are different free zones in the UAE that I can go and set up and register my company in. The different types of functions that my company would work on, there was a big diversity of functions that your company can perform once you get a trade license in any of these free zones. So I saw that there were a lot of great options to choose from. A lot of different entities for startups were giving, great offers, right? And that comes with, maybe, for example, space on AWS, on the cloud platforms, right? So a lot of those incentives were there, and it definitely created a very positive buzz, because you have companies that are coming in with fresh ideas, with different concepts, and all of them have a great opportunity to quickly get started and quickly be able to prototype, start to engage with customers. So that is something that I've definitely seen here. I can't really comment about London because, well, I was in the UK. I never really went into that space. I was always working either in London or in Reading or in Swindon, and with the employer I was with at that time. So I can't comment about the UK. But here, the vibe is very, very energetic. It's you could set up your startup within a day. You could have your trade license within a day. You can have your bank account within 2 days, right? With some of the banking channels that are available here, you can be transactional by the end of the week. So having that speed and that pace is amazing.
Indeed, indeed. So with the community there, are you part of any kind of networking groups or communities of CEOs and founders?
I think a few. So within every sort of startup incubation area, you can actually be part of a group where you can network, go to the events, meet with people. I would probably say I haven't done that much of that networking. Probably maybe because I haven't needed to so far, but at least I sort of keep an eye on what's coming through in the emails or on the WhatsApp groups. But the communities are there, and they can be very helpful in terms of getting people for these trials. But we've not really needed that, so I haven't been that active in this space.
Got it. Got it. And if you were to give advice to somebody that's considering setting up a startup, particularly that's been in the corporate world and haven't run a business before, what advice would you give them?
So my advice would be that if you are going to go into the startup world, speak to as many people as you can who are going to be the potential customers that are going to use your platform, right? Think of different personas of end users, right? If you're even going to provide consultancy services, even if you're going to provide training services, think about the different personas and talk to as many of them as you can. If you can, before you even take the first step, if you can speak to at least 200 people, it's a big ask to talk to 200 people. It takes a long time to network and speak to 200 people, but it's not that easy when you're asking for somebody for 10 minutes of their time as a mentor, right? Where you want that input or you want that feedback. That would be my first go-to advice: is understand whether what you have in mind and what your vision is something that is going to fit with what people are going to be able to use or would want to use, right? And I think I realized later on in the world of business that there's a term for this called the product market fit. I didn't even know that there was anything like that, right? So do that. That discovery, that journey is definitely something that will help you believe in what you want to work on, and you will have that as a motivation behind you all the time.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's great to spend some time talking about your startup and your journey. If anyone wants to learn more about ByteSpark, how can they get hold of you?
Well, I've just updated the website. Took me a week of writing in WordPress, so you can visit us on our website, or you can send an email to me, ali@byteSpark.ai. Happy to connect.
Great. Thanks so much for your time, Ali.
Thank you very much, Natalie. Nice to talk to you.
That's it for this episode of Tech Startup Stories. Have a story you'd like us to share or a topic you'd want to cover? Reach out and we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care.